My name is Elena. For 5 years, David and I were the picture-perfect couple. He was a rising star in real estate development, and I was an architect. When David decided to start his own firm, we made a deal. I would put my career on hold, manage the household, and handle all the back-end administration for his startup for free. I built the foundation of his empire. I designed the initial floor plans that won him his first massive contracts. But the more successful David got, the less he came home. Then came Chloe. She was 24, a junior interior designer he hired. She wore Prada, drove a Porsche bought with daddy's money, and looked at me like I was the help. I ignored the red flags. I was pregnant with our first child, a little boy we were going to name Leo. I thought the late nights and the secret texting were just work stress. Until that night in November. I found the hotel receipts. When I confronted him, I expected apologies. I expected tears. Instead, I got ice. "I'm not in love with you anymore, Elena," he said, completely devoid of emotion. "Chloe understands my ambition. You just tie me down." I pointed to my swollen stomach. "I'm carrying your son," I screamed. He just scoffed. "My lawyer will send you a check." "But this house is in my name. The company is in my name. I want you out. Tonight." He literally dragged me by my arm and locked me out. I sat in my freezing 10-year-old Honda Civic, clutching my stomach, staring at the house I helped design as the lights flicked off in the master bedroom. The next few months were a blur of survival. I had a few $100s in my personal account. The lawyer David hired was ruthless. He stalled the divorce proceedings so I couldn't get a dime in alimony or child support while I was vulnerable. I lived in a rundown motel on the outskirts of the city. I worked off the books at a diner because no architecture firm was going to hire a woman who was 8 months pregnant. My feet swelled until they bled. I ate leftover toast from the diner just to make sure I had enough nutrients for my baby. In January, my son Leo was born. He was beautiful, and I was completely alone. No husband pacing the waiting room, no flowers. Just me, a hospital bill I couldn't pay, and a tiny life that depended entirely on me. Holding Leo in that quiet hospital room, a switch flipped in my brain. The sadness evaporated. The crying stopped. A cold, burning fire ignited in my chest. David had stolen my designs, my money, and my dignity. But I wasn't going to let him steal my son's future. I didn't just survive. I went to war. While Leo slept in a bassinet next to my laptop, I started freelancing. I pitched architectural designs to overseas developers who didn't care about my resume or my living situation. They only cared about the work. And my work was flawless. I saved every penny. After a year, I launched my own boutique design and development firm, Apex Zenith. I targeted the exact eco-friendly, modern commercial spaces that David's traditional firm was too slow to adapt to. I worked 18-hour days. If I wasn't mothering, I was designing. If I wasn't designing, I was networking. I was a woman possessed. Fast forward 5 years. 5 years of sweat, tears, and relentless grind. Apex Zenith didn't just succeed, it exploded. We landed a $50 million city contract to redesign the downtown commercial district. I went from living in a roach-infested motel to owning a penthouse overlooking the skyline. Leo was thriving, attending a top-tier private school, happy and healthy. And David? Well, the universe has a funny way of balancing the scales. David's arrogance was his downfall. He married Chloe, of course. But Chloe liked to spend money faster than David could make it. To keep up with her lifestyle, David started cutting corners. He took on massive, high-interest loans for luxury condo developments right before the housing market took a dip. His project stalled. His investors pulled out. And Chloe? The moment the yachts and the designer bags stopped coming, she filed for divorce and took whatever cash he had left. I kept tabs on him from a distance, not out of longing, but out of strategy. In business, you always watch your competitors, especially the drowning ones. Then came the day I had been waiting for. My acquisitions team informed me that a struggling local development firm was facing foreclosure on their primary assets. The bank was auctioning off their half-finished projects. The firm? Sterling Developments. David's company. I didn't just buy his debts. I bought his entire firm out from under him through a proxy holding company. I owned his buildings. I owned his contracts. I owned him. But he didn't know it was me yet. David was called in for a mandatory meeting with the new majority shareholder to discuss the liquidation of his assets. He walked into my building, the building I designed. He was directed to the top floor. He looked older, tired, carrying a worn-out briefcase. He sat in the waiting room for 45 minutes. I made him wait. Just like I waited in the freezing rain all those years ago. When the secretary finally let him into the boardroom, I was facing the window. "Mr. Sterling," I said, not turning around yet. "Have a seat." "Thank you," he said, his voice desperate, shaking. "Listen, I know the numbers look bad, but if you just give me a 6-month extension, I can turn these properties around. I built this company from the ground up." I slowly turned around in my chair. I leaned forward, resting my hands on the glass table. "You didn't build it from the ground up, David," I said softly. "I designed your first 3 projects while you were sleeping." The color entirely drained from his face. He looked like he had seen a ghost. His jaw physically dropped. "Elena?" he whispered. You're Apex? You're the majority shareholder?" "I am." I smiled. It wasn't a warm smile. It was a predator's smile. "Elena, please," he stammered, suddenly trying to play the nostalgia card. "We have history. We have a son. How is he? I can be better. We can figure this out as a family." I laughed. It echoed in the massive room. "You don't have a son, David. You threw a pregnant woman into the snow. You lost the right to that title 5 years ago." I slid a thick folder across the desk. "These are the liquidation papers. Your firm no longer exists. Your assets are being absorbed into Apex Zenith. You are officially bankrupt." He stared at the papers, tears welling in his eyes. The man who had looked at me with such ice, such cruelty, was now crying like a child. "You took everything from me," he choked out. "No," I corrected him. "I bought what you threw away. Now sign the papers and get out of my building." He signed. He had no choice. David now works as a mid-level manager at a logistics company he hates. He rents a tiny apartment. He has never met Leo, and by court order, he never will. As for me, I don't look back anymore. When you get kicked to the curb, you have 2 choices. You can lie there and let the dirt cover you, or you can use the ground to push yourself up higher than you ever were before. To anyone out there watching this who has been betrayed, discarded, or told they are worthless, they are wrong. Your lowest moment is not your ending. It is the beginning of your origin story. Take the pain, bottle it up, and use it as fuel. Because the best revenge isn't getting even. The best revenge is massive, unstoppable success. If this story resonated with you, if you believe in karma and the power of starting over, hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel for more stories of people taking their power back. Let me know in the comments below, how would you have handled David? Until next time, stay strong and build your own empire.